Welcome everybody to the Soul Path Community Friday class. It is the end of March and therefore it is time for our April 2025 forecast. This is a very intense month, and you know that I am not a fan of fear in astrology. So as we talk about everything that's going on in this month, I want to keep bringing you back to thinking about how you can use the energies that are coming from the highest perspective, how you can deliberately, consciously connect to these energies so that hopefully not too much of the shadow side becomes part of your event complex. Okay, that is really the trick to working with the energy. You know from studying with me for so long, most of you, that every planet and every sign has a range of meaning. And on a personal level, we have a certain amount of choice of what we are choosing to operate with. It's not so easy on the global level where billions of people and their thought processes and their choices are part of how things play out. So a very good example is what we're going through right now in our world, and especially in the United States, where we have a very, dictator-like government issuing all sorts of orders and ignoring normal protocol and justice and thinking that they're being the revolutionaries and making radical change. And then we've got half the people maybe who think this is a good idea and half the people who don't. And if you think about all of the predictions and forecasts and everything that's been going on for at least a year, where different astrologers, including me, have been talking about what's going to happen in the world. When we were talking about Aquarius, highlight, positive, we talked about things like, equality, new ideas, technology moving forward, humanitarian energies, radical change. Okay, you start to get to radical change, you start, maybe you can think about that when I first say it as, oh, that's a good thing, but maybe it's hard to handle radical change, and we have to think about that. Authenticity is an Aquarian feature, and it's especially true on a personal level. But then we get into the potential for a certain kind of coldness, lack of empathy, authoritarianism. I would often use the example for the shadow of Aquarius on a global level is communist China when it first emerged, when everybody had to wear the little gray suits, so they all looked the same and everybody following along. That is also Aquarian, that vision of life where rules and mandates are really intense and you have to dissociate from personal needs. Okay, think about the opposite sign to Aquarius as Leo. And with Leo, it is all about personal needs. It's about what you feel you're entitled to and deserve and what's creative and fun and romantic and expressive. And Aquarius is the opposite of that. And Aquarius at that intense level is revolution. And one of the things that I will often say is that revolutions are hard and they're fought over many, many years. It's a slow, steady, difficult process. And we can think about some revolutions that went sideways, like the Egyptian revolution, where after looking like so great that the young people had demonstrated and overthrown a restrictive regime, instead the military took over and it moved in a very difficult direction for people. Think about the decline of the Roman Empire and how that took many, 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 many years. And people who could possibly get away left the cities and went out into the countryside to try to live as peacefully as possible. So, revolutions are unpredictable, kind of like a pack of rabid dogs, and you're working toward change, and there's often different factions, and we can say that we are in this bridge year, 2025, about that, where we're operating under the mantle of the Saturn Jupiter alignment in 2020 that was in, half a degree of Aquarius. And then we are operating under Pluto in Aquarius, which is now finally into stay for 20 years. And then on top of that, we've got these changes that are beginning to launch that relate to other astrological cycles that flow into this Aquarian piece. So things are moving fast, and they are going to continue to move very, very quickly. Now, here's the rundown. I always share this ephemeris page for you, so that's the page for April. But given where we are today, I want to point out first the end of March changes that we are swimming in this moment. So Venus just went into Pisces in its retrograde motion, right? Venus and Mercury are both retrograde. And they both started around 9-10 degrees of Aries. So the initial part of the review is about life force, vitality, courage, bravery, being alive, fighting for what you believe in, being sort of strong, independent, and active. And Venus looks at the relationships that we have and do they fit with the Aries needs within us? And Mercury is just overall a review and a revision of all things that are about pioneering independent life force, depending on where that is in your chart. So we are right here in the middle of the two of them going into Pisces in retrograde motion. So now these two planets are reviewing more the cosmic sense of who we are. They're reviewing empathy, compassion, spirituality, soul-centered love, creativity. And then you see, if you follow down to April, on the 7th of April, Mercury goes direct at 27 Pisces, and on the 12th, Venus, not Venue, Venus goes direct at 25 Pisces. That's a good Mercury retrograde for my slide. So we get into those higher degrees of Pisces where we have had Neptune sitting for a few years now, drawing more and more of that high frequency spiritual creative vibration into our lives, into our world, imagination, incredible ideas built around love and the soul connection of oneness we all have, but also shadow side of Pisces, a little note here, is confusion, delusion, overwhelm, tragic losses, lies, hidden things, manipulation. So the Mercury and the Venus are taking us back into that territory where I could say a lot of events have been shielded by Neptune in Pisces. And as they go direct, okay, in your chart, you're meant to connect to a little more Pisces, a little bit more of your spirituality, your compassion, your sense that we're all one, and then take that into Aries and have that help you understand more about the actions you're meant to take in your own life to be in that place of soul-centered beingness, soul-centered life force and vitality. That is one of the Aries qualities that can get overlooked while people are talking about Aries being impatient and self-centered. The real vibration of Aries is aliveness, beingness, and just the joy of being embodied. Now, the 29th, we have the solar eclipse at 9 degrees Aries. So again, that's right around the same degree that these two retrogrades began. The solar eclipse is a new moon with a lot of extra power. It moves us, eclipses us into our destiny, whether we're ready or not. The solar eclipse has more power to start than a lunar eclipse, which is a little less powered and more about completions. And we already had that at 24 degrees of Virgo. So Sun in Pisces, Moon in Virgo on that eclipse. And that happened a couple of weeks ago. Now we get the Aries, and it is, we could say it's launch time, it's go time, but it's not truly time to start because we're still in the retrograde phase. And I'd say whatever it is you're thinking about starting, if you can delay it until at least mid-April, and then even then, as you see to the bottom of this page where I say mid to late April, Mars is opposite Pluto. You can see here, if you're looking at the ephemeris, Mars mid-month is, in the late degrees of Cancer, and Pluto is around 3 or 4 degrees of Aquarius. So it's out of sign, but it's still a wide opposition. But we get to the end of the month and we get Mars in 3, 4 degrees of Leo, and it's directly across from Pluto. And Mars and Pluto opposite each other can be a force, an intense force. On the global level, we can talk about attacks and violence, intensity. On a personal level, you have to manage your will, desire, intense energy. Mars is the Aries planet, so we get back to life force and vitality versus anger and impatience and resentment. And Pluto, which wants to transform the woundedness, dig into the shadow and bring things forward for us to look at. That Pluto can be very controlling, rageful, angry, and can get us into power battles. Remember, an opposition often plays out as you holding one of those positions and someone else seeming to hold the opposite view. So you could be dug in trying to control things, not wanting to face your issues. And Mars, someone can be all about themselves or be angry or attacking. Or you could switch and you can be the Mars and somebody else plays out Pluto and is controlling and, impossible to deal with. Either way, on a personal level, we'll be working all month, I think, with this energy of, what to do, how to go forward, the Mars, and the Pluto, the seeming intense, corrupt, challenging, powerful energy. In some ways, I would say we have, this relates a lot to this idea that we're in right now of the oligarchy taking over, the ultra rich. That's Pluto. Pluto is about wealth at that frequency, and Mars, the individual. All this Aries, all about the individual. So going back to this list again, as you go through the month, the direct forces, the full moon, which will be completion. Then we'll have Mercury into Aries, sign change, communication, the way we're thinking about things, now also in Aries, life force, vitality, what do we fight for? Mars into Leo, again, it's like more creative, expressive, a little bit more royal. And then the 19th, next, going into the next sign, Sun goes into Taurus. And then finally, toward the end of the month, we have the new moon at 8 degrees Taurus and Venus into Aries. The other major kind of patterning in the sky is a sextile trine triangle, which starts to come into play around the 6th of April and is pretty strong till about the 19th. You can see that this kind of trine, which is different than a grand trine where it's all the trines, usually the same element, is a trine formation. Like you can see here, we've got Mars in Cancer in a trine to Venus, Saturn, Mercury, all in Pisces. If we had a real grand trine, we would have around 25 degrees of Scorpio over here, and they would all flow together. But instead, what we have is a sextile trine, and the sextiles go to Uranus in Taurus. This is considered also, rather risky on a personal level and on a global level, because we get Uranus, the planet of revolution, the Aquarian planet, something unpredictable, shocking, connected to Taurus, which can be money, stability, security, land, what makes us feel safe. And that is in a sextile. And sextiles are like trines, they flow, they harmonize, but sextiles are a little bit faster, considered to be more excitable. And this sextile to Mars, whenever you get Mars and Uranus together, there is, quite often like a potential for accidents. And this is where, on a personal level, knowing that all month you need to slow down, you need to, drive cautiously, walk cautiously, cut onions carefully. This is like an erratic energy that's just there waiting for your attention to soften and not feel that. And then, of course, as the Uranus is connecting to Saturn, Venus, Mercury, the review energy might bring you into some new ideas, some new thoughts about relationship, maybe something you want to let go of so you can be more authentic. That's Uranus. And Saturn, yet honoring what your commitments are and what you need to do for the long term. And of course, the North Node in Pisces is very connected, into this as well. That's certainly close enough to be a major conjunction. It's a stellium, so these energies all work together. And honestly, Neptune, even though it's out of sign, is very much part of this oneness. So we get not just these planets in Pisces, but we get Neptune, the Pisces planet, in its early stage of now being in the sign of Aries, where imagination, oneness, and soul level connection is operating through the lens of life force, new starts, pioneering energies. Okay. So as this moves forward, what happens is by the 19th, Mars has moved into Leo and forming a very strong trine with the Neptune in Aries, but it's still definitely in a sextile relationship with Uranus. So we get a little bit more intensity, more likely tempers to flare or bold moves. And again, when we talk about these things kind of philosophically, like bold moves sounds maybe positive, but we have to realize that that can sometimes be, people in the world making bold moves, or, with Mars in Leo, operating in an aggressive way based on a sense of entitlement that, we have to contend with. So I know I feel this every day. I'm pretty sure most of you do also. We are in such an intense, changeable period. It does take all of our spiritual presence, all of our work internally to stay grounded, present, to be able to find a balance, to focus on our own personal lives and what we can do in them, which maybe we have to think outside the box, which is Aquarian and Uranus. Maybe think about living in different ways than we have before. being connected to each other in new ways. This period of time is fundamentally very disruptive to our normal sense of stability. And, my sense is that our spiritual practices, our meditation, our yoga, our stretching, being in nature, being in water, connecting with each other, going places where we can, be in the moment of the joy and possibilities that we have, and set aside the endless worry or obsession with what are they going to do next, because there's we only have our lane to stay in. We can expand and go into more new ideas, different ways that we can be connected to our values. But overall, this whole transformation of the world and the healing crisis we're in right now is a giant effort of a lot of people. So we have to find our community, our tribe. That's Aquarius and Uranus, and work together to build this new, healthy, spiritually aligned consciousness on this planet. Even though those that would kind of hold all the wealth and power to themselves continue to fight really tooth and nail. Now, the full moon is on April 12th at 8:23 Eastern, 23 degrees Libra, basically. And you see the sun in Aries, the moon in Libra. So a full moon, again, is culmination, completion. It is a time where we stand on a plateau and say, have we finished this thing, whatever it is we're doing? Maybe it's something you just started 2 weeks before at the last new moon. Maybe it's something you started years ago. But this is a time to assess, what is it you're letting go of? Moon in Libra, a little bit reminiscent of when the nodes were in Libra and Aries. Maybe giving too much to others, maybe vacillating, being uncertain, trying to please people. And then the Aries, another nod to doing what gives you life force and vitality, to being alive, taking the action and the steps that you need to take, being courageous and brave to do so. And Chiron is there, exactly conjunct, almost to the minute. And Chiron is also about standing up and being Aries-like, trusting that you can do it, even though you might not feel it 100%. That's the nature of the Chiron wound. And the Chiron healing takes us into that feeling that we can do it. Chiron and Aries. It's not other people that get to be themselves or do what they want to do. It is you. And so that's another piece to be thinking about as we're in this month. And you see how strongly April 12th, we have the, incredible trine of all these Pisces planets to Mars. So extra help at this full moon to take action and to be yourself. And then we reach the new moon on April 27th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. This is at 8 degrees Taurus, 7 degrees and 46 minutes. Chiron is pretty close, but it's out of sign, so I'm not going to think about that. But you're still really lots of Aries energy that is building. And we can see by the 27th that Mercury has come back to already the shadow period of where it started. And Venus is not yet back into Aries, but soon will be. So we have the grounding energy of Taurus. We don't have a major retrograde at this time. So this new moon is truly the start new moon for the spring, or for the astrological new year. if there's something that you're thinking about launching or doing, for instance, I've been working with someone on a podcast of consciousness for business women. And we just decided to set it aside for a couple of weeks and think about exactly what we're going to do and talk about it mid-April. But then I would be likely to just do brainstorming work at a deeper level and think about launching after this new moon in Taurus. It's a beautiful new moon. Again, no retrogrades. We finished the Venus and the Mercury retrograde. We still have an interesting blend where Saturn is still in Pisces, kind of holding down this discipline and connectivity to the Pisces vibration of compassion and creativity and imagination. But we have a lot moving forward in Aries that gives us that courage for the new starts. We've got Mars in Leo, which also can move things forward. And we have the groundedness, the slower energy of the new moon in Taurus that gives us a start that's practical, grounded, solid, steeped in safety. And here's where we can think about with this new moon, how can we embody Pluto and Mars together for ourselves? So be willing to look at our own shadow material, Pluto in Aquarius, about our sense of authenticity, freedom, liberation, our highest spiritual qualities, where we understand the matrix and we are in a place of quiet and conscious awareness. And then the Mars in Leo, that we're also human. We have ego, but not too much. And we move things forward creatively. And, this is in a light trine to the Mercury. So we're able to call in all that we've been reviewing and think things through, maybe in a new way. And this new moon is fundamentally square to the Pluto-Mars opposition. So we have to find a way to have a new idea, a new thing we do, something creative that will help us manage Pluto opposite Mars and both of them square to the new moon in Taurus. So we've got a whole month to process, to think, to ponder what you are doing in your life. And this is a bridge month, I would say, to new choices and new events that are happening for us individually and in the world. And speaking about newness, you'll see if you're looking here at my upcoming events, I still have the Edmonton Astrologers Narcissism Talk by Zoom on April 11th. Kepler College in September, Tales from the Crypt, going to be fun, a whole conference that weekend. Opus Speaker Series, though, August 10th, I've been forgetting to put that in, The Astrology of Love in 2025, Navigating Cosmic Shifts. I have definitely decided not to go to Turkey, given everything going on at the immigration here in America and Turkey demonstrations. I'm not a citizen, I'm a green card holder, so rather than go through immigration at this point in time with all of the, difficulties going on there. I'm not going to go to Turkey, so I will be around. And then Astrology Niagara doing a Zoom lecture on the path of relationship evolution. Lots of changes around relationship energy with this incredible amount of Aquarius and Aries that is building into our psyche and into the cosmos right now. So that's it for this part of our class today. We can now take a look at a couple of charts of people who are here right now.